This episode of the podcast is brought to you by LeafWell.
Hello, Cannabinoid Connect listeners. Have you ever thought about getting a medical card? The process can be intimidating and hard to navigate. That's why I've partnered with LeafWell, the easiest and most affordable way to get a medical card in Texas and 32 other states in the U.S. LeafWell seamlessly connects you to a network of doctors that will help you get certified online in minutes. LeafWell is run by data scientists, cannabis specialists, and patient advocates that are passionate about increasing access and education around medical cannabis. LeafWell's patient support team is also there to support you throughout your entire journey using medical cannabis. As I've mentioned, I've partnered with LeafWell to provide all my listeners with a discount to become certified for medical cannabis. Simply go to their website at leafwell.com and use the promo code CCTX to receive $15 off the price of getting a medical card. LeafWell only charges you if you get approved, so what do you have to lose? Visit their website at leafwell.com today and use the promo code CCTX to get certified for medical cannabis. Risk-free. Hey Vanessa, what's going on?
Hey, Kevin, thanks for having me. So excited to be here.
Of course. Yeah, no, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much. You mentioned that you're in California, so I would imagine, well, there were some storms recently that hit, right?
Yeah, I was actually just in England. I just got back yesterday. I went to go see my boyfriend's family for Christmas and New Year's, but yeah, there's been today it's like raining outside. It's super windy. I'm like, it feels like England. Thought I was coming back to good weather. But yeah, it's pretty cold today actually.
Oh no. Well, hopefully nothing too serious, and if there was, that everyone's okay, because
Yeah.
I think I heard something at work about that. But anywho, it's really good to have you. I'm really interested to be talking to you today. I know that you've been in the cannabis industry for a while, particularly in the technology side of the house, being the co-founder previously with Greenlight Technologies before, of course, now you're the CEO and co-founder of Drop Delivery. So tell me a little bit about, your start. I think I heard in one podcast you were on, your co-founder Mark had this light bulb moment for Greenlight Technologies. So walk us through a little bit of your background, that story, and what led you where you're at today.
Yeah. So like me and Mark actually go way back to high school. So we've known each other for I think almost 15 years now.
Wow.
But yeah, he was into photography like in high school. And so when I had this idea for a fashion website when I was a freshman in college, I was like, I need photographers. So I hit up Mark and he was like, yes. And that was kind of our journey together as far as the start of entrepreneurship. But he eventually made his way into the tech side of things. And yeah, so we did that first fashion startup. It lasted about 2 years. It was very capital intensive, learned very quickly. It takes a lot of money to sell fashion, and if you don't sell then you're stuck with all this inventory. But it was a great learning lesson, especially at the time being like 19, 20, having a warehouse, having a team, and just having fun with your friends. And we were so like naive and I think brave to just like jump into entrepreneurship that even though we had a lot of struggles, it wasn't that big of a deal at the time.
Right.
Yeah,
Especially at
like
that age, right? I mean,
yeah, we were like traveling, going to fashion trade shows. We were going to like brand after parties. Like we weren't even like legally allowed to drink. Like they had the biggest fashion trade shows in Las Vegas, very similar to like, MJ BizCon and stuff. And yeah, we were attending at like 19, 20 years old. And getting invited to like brand after parties, but the after
wow.
parties were being held in like hotel suites, so we could
Right.
get in, which was yeah, it's so crazy to think about that was like a decade ago.
You're
But yeah,
living two
and so
lives. You're living your second life now in cannabis.
oh, I know. It's the entrepreneurship journey is so funny and so different for everyone, like I was in it for a few years and then I left and then I came back, but Mark actually stuck through it. And yeah, after that first fashion startup, he kind of made his way into tech and into like the vape space. So he was the founder of a few companies, like a uh peer-to-peer selling marketplace for vape products, called Vape Mill. And then He had another one that was like B2B called Vape Block. And so he kind of made his way into there, but then a lot of like the regulations and things after he started, kind of cut that short. And so he was living in LA and going to local dispensaries and just having, kind of been in mobile tech, he was like, I'm waiting in this line at a dispensary. I already know what I want. I wish I could have just placed an order for pickup and skipped the line. And, not to take away from the people that do want the experience of talking to a bud tender and learning about new products and strains and things like that. But just for the people that kind of already know what they want, you can do this with other industries like restaurants and food, for example, and now
Mhm.
even shopping. So why shouldn't I be able to do this with cannabis? And so that was his light bulb moment. And I was working a corporate job as an e-commerce marketing manager for a beauty brand at the time, but I always like had this itch that I wanted to get back into entrepreneurship some way, somehow. And
Mhm.
so, he had worked on a few projects with my sister Jade, who's our chief product officer now at Drop, and was also a co-founder with us at Greenlight. And so they called me up and said, "Do you want to, come back and work with us?" And I was like, "Let's do it." I quit my job and moved to LA, and been doing this basically ever since. But I mean, I was pretty new to the cannabis space. At the time, I wasn't a participant, but I just loved technology. And I was living in New York prior, and me and my whole family moved to New York City from a really small suburban town in Northern California. And we just got insanely exposed to just like mobile tech. Like I could get a doctor to come to my house to check me out if I'm feeling sick.
Wow.
I can get my laundry picked up and delivered and done, and I don't have to do it myself. I can get my groceries delivered and all these things that you could do through mobile apps and mobile technology,
Right.
just the way of life in New York City. And so that kind of really, I think, set me and my sister on a path of like mobile tech and just kind of being inspired on how that could evolve and how much opportunity there was for mobile tech in the cannabis space, and how much there's still a lot of room for growth
Right.
on the mobile and tech side, and just the tech side in general for cannabis. But so we launched Greenlight, which was an app
Yeah.
where you can find local dispensaries in your area to place an order for pickup, skip the line, and earn loyalty points and rewards for your purchases. And so, we launched that when rec for use was legalized and went live here in California back in like 2017. And we just got really lucky. It kind of took off and went viral. And then we were acquired shortly after by a publicly traded cannabis company, and
Which
was just
one?
sort of Leaf Buyer Technologies.
Nice. Okay.
They're based out of Colorado, and so it was just an amazing learning experience. And we had so heavily focused on the in-store experience that for users that we were like, there's not a lot out there for users on the delivery side of things and what that like experience is like. And so that really kind of led us on a journey to start Drop.
Yeah.
So yeah. Really focusing on like both ends of the spectrum for a consumer, but both equally very important to the experience.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, the transition or the pivot, to the delivery side seems so natural given the
Yeah.
fact that you were, so heavily in the retail environment, right?
Yeah.
With Greenlight Technologies. And what a perfect industry to enter. I feel like from your perspective, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, you had the itch working that e-commerce corporate job to get back into entrepreneurship. Cannabis is like this booming industry that's completely taking over,
Yeah.
19 states, 36 medicinal states, right? And a handful of like decriminalized states. So that you just see the public support. I mean, you're in the right area, right? So tell me a little bit about how the pandemic changed and really, you know, I guess prompted the need for delivery and pickup services, right? And did you see that as kind of that light bulb moment for drop
Yeah.
delivery?
Yeah, and what's crazy is that, we had the idea for Drop prior to the pandemic. It was, mid to late 2019, and we had finished building and done a beta late 2019. And so the beta was successful. We were able to convert all those free clients into paying clients in January 2020. And then, yeah, the pandemic hit March 2020. And so I think it was, I mean, just delivery in general, it was the lifeline for all industries, and so I think it was a catalyst for cannabis specifically because, states that didn't offer delivery now did, because dispensaries and things were now, if they didn't offer delivery before, it was the only way, but if they didn't have pickup available to get, products to customers. And
Right.
so
And the
um,
pressure was on because cannabis was deemed essential. So it's like
yes,
figure it
exactly.
out,
So,
right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I think that was the perfect storm, for, yeah, for it to be the catalyst of like, we need to offer delivery. If as a business you didn't offer it before, you did now, or you thought about it, because it was the only way, or it kept your business going for X amount of time until you could reopen your doors. And so, and I think too, even on the legislation side and the regulation side of things, it was like, okay, now we have to offer delivery, or, new states that were coming on. Delivery was a talking point from the beginning, and it's not an afterthought. Um, so I think, yeah, it was, uh, a silver lining that we could be a company that helped facilitate that, and, could really make those deliveries happen during that time.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it was pretty wild.
Yeah. I mean, and the momentum is still carrying because I mean, it's January 3rd where we're recording this podcast, but I mean, was it like, I guess a month ago or 3 weeks ago, New York had major changes by adding delivery services. The
Yeah.
governor announced that.
Yeah, no, and I think that's like one of the beautiful things about the cannabis industry is that news can come out that can totally just change the trajectory of like our sales plan as a tech company. Obviously we've been talking about preparing for New York for so long, but then that obviously was just like, holy moly, we can slide right in there and offer delivery, and partner, with these license holders, because of this. So, I think that's one thing is like it's never a dull moment in cannabis. And honestly, like news can change every other day that can kind of change the direction of your business.
Right, right. And I mean, them adding scooters and bikes is so cool. Obviously, one, it's needed in the city, right? But
Yeah.
also, I just think about Half Baked and like, Dave Chappelle's scene where it was, the illicit market where they were so structured and they had delivery guys come in with whatever you needed. And that's going to be coming to fruition on the legal,
I know.
side.
Yeah, I think I did a podcast, or I was talking to somebody, maybe it was like a few months ago, maybe like a year ago, when, everybody was still preparing for New York and the regs to come out. And that was like one of my questions was like, deliveries are done via scooter and bike in New York City. Is that going to be a thing for cannabis? Like, is
Mm,
that actually?
right.
So, yeah, like it was a really valid question, and I didn't know which way it was going to skew, but like for it to actually be like, yeah, that's how it's going to be. I mean, obviously, it makes sense. It's the only way to deliver, but when it comes to cannabis, it's like you kind of never know what the regs are going to look like for each state. And so, yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting
I
to see.
get it's super interesting and I get really curious about the logistics of it all, right? Because like New
Yeah,
York's a really populated city,
yeah,
and that's in some ways a vulnerable human like delivering however much excess of product, right? That could be
yeah.
a target. I mean, so I wonder if there'd be regs around like protection or some kind of, self-defense weapon that they have on their person. I don't know. Like that's what I'm
No,
super fascinated about.
yeah, yeah, no, and that's a really great point. Even on the self, protection part. I mean, for us, when we built our delivery app, yeah, our driver app, for Drop. I mean, we made it specifically for cannabis, and one thing in our consumer app is that you can't track the driver just for safety reasons. It's not like food or Amazon or anything else. Just because one, they're carrying product that, cost a lot. And two, they could be carrying a lot of cash. So there's a lot of safety things around that. So yeah, it will be interesting because someone could be pretty defenseless on a scooter or a bike. And two, like having to lock up their, if it's going to be in a little like box on the back of the bike, or is it like, yeah, if it's like a little backpack type thing, that I've seen food go in, like, how is that going to be locked? Like it's going to
Right.
be, yeah, and how are they going to carry cash? A lot of cash potentially. Yeah, I know it's there's so many like potentials.
So many questions, right? Like
Yeah,
once you start to really think about it. But
yeah,
I mean, obviously it's something that's needed again because like that's really the main transportation. Driving a car really wouldn't be feasible or a vehicle
no,
because just to kind of get around.
yeah.
And so that's a good question that you asked. I I want to switch gears and ask you, so when you first entered the other side of the spectrum, right? And that's on the delivery side, which we're talking
Mhm.
about from a technology perspective, how fragmented was the stack, the software stack that these companies were utilizing and leveraging? I mean, what did you
Yeah,
see
and
in that
it
regard?
was, really shocking to see. I mean, even as a SaaS company myself, we use a lot of different apps and softwares, and so can be a lot to manage. But yeah, these, license holders were using anywhere from 4 to 6 different software platforms to run their day to day. If they were, kind of utilizing all these different tools and options. So, one, you have POS to manage your inventory. Two, you have something on the consumer side. If you did have something on the consumer side, like an app or, obviously your website and stuff. And then three, you had SMS marketing. And four, you had logistics. So last mile logistics, like a driver app and things, just to name a few. And so what we learned was that those weren't necessarily all connected. So you'd be using all of those things separately, and it's not enough these days to just send out like marketing blasts that aren't
Targeted,
personalized to the consumer. And so,
right?
but with cannabis and not having many marketing options because it's still heavily regulated and not allowed, they turn to SMS marketing as an option, which is actually very smart because the open rates on SMS marketing is much higher than email. But what we found was that, like, yeah, they weren't using any of the purchase or history or data points from the consumer to market effectively and to help increase sales. And in the end, you could actually lose people because you're just like blasting out promotions and deals and things that aren't relevant to that
Right.
customer. And
Well,
so we
aren't
really,
isn't the challenge with that though, the tracking systems, like our tracking systems are a big part of it. Like for instance, in New Mexico, I'm involved with a brand that sells a pre-roll product. And
yeah,
the tracking system that's used in New Mexico, or one of them, is BioTrack.
biotrack,
And
yeah.
yeah, and what I've learned is that I guess they should have demographic data and all that type of data, but it's either really hard to come by or like non-existent. So is that one reason why like operators would need a solution like drop delivery, because
Yeah,
that data doesn't exist? I mean, or it's
it's
hard
just
to
that
come by?
it's not being aggregated correctly, or it's in one area that and then it's not connected. So I think that's the thing, is like, as drop, we are intaking so much data, but at the end of the day, data is only as powerful if you use it, and if you use it in the right ways, because data that you don't use doesn't mean anything. So yeah, I mean, from obviously like age, location, gender, to yeah, purchase history, etc. We all take in, and so being able for the clients to use that and say, okay, I have a um, brand that I want to promote, and I'm going to send it to the people that have bought this brand before or have bought a similar brand, or similar products to this brand. and being able to do that, like with our segmenting and our SMS marketing. But yeah, I mean, even with um,
So, so
having,
quick question on that. Sorry, Vanessa, because I'm super interested in this. So,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
who's responsible for that data input, right? Because you like, or is it automated? Like, so
no, yeah, yeah.
so who would be responsible for inputting? Would it be the retailer at first to kind of have that input so that then it'd be I mean, how does it work?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, all that info gets taken into, like, if I was a brand new client and maybe I had that info from a previous provider, maybe, or if I didn't, but if I did, then I could just input whatever data from a previous software provider and just import that in as like my customers. Or if you're like brand new, just got your license and just starting out, I mean, all that data will aggregate once you start getting customers and they start using your app. So, I mean, that's the one thing that makes us different than anybody else in the industry is that we provide our clients their own white labeled mobile app that can be downloaded from the App Store. And if not, like, say, for example, like that rule for the App Store only came out, I think, like a year ago. So that took a while. So before that, and what we still do offer because the Google Play Store doesn't allow cannabis delivery apps, is technology called PWA, Progressive Web App Technology. So it looks and feels like an app and functions like an app, but it's just web based. And you could save it to your home screen, and it pretty much looks like and feels like an app. So yeah, that's how
Mobile responsive, right? Like it's yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And that's actually a really great solution, right? I mean, in some cases, because it works just as good. And like you said, it just takes the user saving it or bookmarking that page to easily access it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the thing too about cannabis is that it like really forces these businesses and us even as a business to try and be really creative, to like, we know the end solution that we want to provide, but having to get around these different technicalities and having to think like, and at first we were like, okay, you can't have an app, what's the next best thing to an app? And we were like, well, progressive web app technology, it's used by some of the biggest companies like Starbucks, Twitter, Pinterest, and you wouldn't even know sometimes that if you were using their PWA technology. And what's great is that, it could be used and we can update the code across all of them, and not have to submit, to the App Store for an update, etc., and have it go through a review and take a few days. Like, with PWA, um, it just has so much more flexibility. So I still think that it's great technology to still use if you didn't want an app. So I mean, you can still
Yeah.
have like an app technology, but not in the App Store. So
Yeah, I can totally see the benefits of PWA compared to, like you said. I mean, every time you make a change or an edit, you have to resubmit to
oh
those
my god,
app
yeah,
stores, and then the
yeah.
review process is hell, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We went through all of that with Greenlight at the time, and yeah, we always joke that like they made the rules that you can't have a cannabis app in the App Store because of us. Because we were like always trying to find creative ways to get around their rules.
so every little avenue you took, they're like, well, stop there, stop. But hey,
Yeah,
you gotta
yeah.
keep
And then
trying,
like
right? You can't stop.
exactly. So, and I mean, yeah, and hopefully, Google Play, I mean, we just need to offer everything. So it's like if a client like wants to be in the App Store, amazing. This you can totally have that. It's just a
Right.
different process. If not, you can get started, with a PWA literally in like less than 24 hours. Don't got to get approved by anybody. You can be up and running and taking orders, quickly.
I
So
love that. Well, one more point on the app side is branding. I mean, what would you recommend to really like stand out from others? I mean, this industry is starting to get really hyper competitive.
Yeah, I think too, I think it even goes beyond branding. It's really about the experience. So I'll talk about branding first, but yeah, I mean, obviously having like a nice, clean logo and having very like clean, simple product pictures. Sometimes like we do audits of our clients and we do give suggestions like, hey, you should swap out these pictures. Like we've had this idea of having our own product database, just so that we can help them have, clear, concise, well-written product descriptions and the best images for that product, or similar products, etc., just so that they can look the best that they can look, because obviously somebody can judge you on that. And so that's one thing, and having as much info as possible about that product is always the best. But yeah, I think the experience, one, your selection of products. Two, do you have like great customer support if the customer needs it? And three, like, is that delivery experience, was it seamless? Was it simple? Was it fast? And that's something that, we try to help facilitate, but we can't actually do for the client. It's, all in the client, but through technology, we can hopefully help facilitate that, being really transparent on, delivery ETA. And then two, going beyond that is like rewards and points and, customer loyalty. It's not just about the new customers you bring in and never come back. It's the ones that you keep coming back. Because studies have shown that if you increase customer retention by just 5%, you can increase your profits anywhere from 25 to 95%. Because those customers are worth more, their lifetime value, than someone that just came one time and never came back.
And I would imagine eliminating logistical like issues that come your way would really improve. I mean, that's one huge area where you can enhance customer experience. The same
Too.
service,
Yeah,
right?
especially with like our last mile logistics, and making sure that we have options like auto routing and like route optimization for drivers, and things like that can kind of help make the delivery process way more efficient. And for someone who's managing the dispatch, or if they don't want to manage the dispatch, then they can just automate everything, and it just round robins, it auto routes the drivers, to specific orders. And so yeah, being able to, I guess, cater to having all those options on, all these businesses are so different on how they want to operate, and so it's really about, I guess, yeah, offering all those different things.
Right. And then on the branding side, so you talked about customer or experience kind of being the most important. You start with that, right? And then, so what would be your thoughts on some best practices when it comes to app branding?
Yeah, like I said, just a really like clear, concise, simple logo that, people will always instantly recognize. And then two, yeah, having, clear pictures, clear, like nice pictures. And three, having as much description about products as possible. Cannabis is an industry where people want to know what's in it, what effects it has, etc. So being able to provide all of that. And then four, having a great rewards and loyalty program. And yeah, what's great is that like all of that can be done, with your own app. And not to say it can't happen, via web, on a desktop site, that it could totally happen as well. But yeah, being able to, so that you can really own that experience and own your customer and connect with your customer in a way that keeps them coming back. So I think if someone hit all of those things, plus, a superb like delivery experience that was like timely, or even like faster than what, that the customer anticipated. And yeah, just having great customer support too, if, any changes or, things need to be amended.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Mhm.
And what states are you active in?
Yeah, we're currently in 7 states. A majority of them are in California, but we have like other clients in Montana, Michigan, just to name a few.
Nice. And we're in the third day of January, right? New year. What is drop delivery really focused on for this year? What are your goals, and where do you want to get?
Yeah. I think really scaling and like growing the team, and yeah, just scaling our operations as a whole. We've really spent the last few years focusing on the product and the technology and really honing it in and perfecting it. And I think we've proven, product market fit. So now it's time to really like get it out there. We haven't done much marketing. We haven't really done pushes for like new, states. Like everything has been honestly very organic for us, which has been amazing. But yeah, I think now it's time like, for a year of growth operationally and yeah, on like the sales side as well. And yeah, it's just super excited. I mean, with the news of New York, so that's going to be interesting. And we're hoping to, have a few partnerships out of that because who wouldn't want to get set up with delivery, like with your own app, like tomorrow? So
Exactly. Right. Right. And with growth, there's going to be challenges, right? So are there any challenges that you kind of foresee at the state level, federal level? I mean, and what are your plans to try to overcome those challenges?
yeah, I mean, even just like with New York as an example, they came out with those new kind of like regulations about delivery. And it'll be interesting because it's like, okay, you can only have this many employees, you must have a warehouse, they must have blah, blah, blah. So, like, there might be some things just around that, like operationally for them. So it's going to be interesting to see around that. And yeah, too, just, I mean, it's obviously a bummer. Like safe banking like didn't pass again.
Right.
And there's always room for improvement and yeah, just excited to continue to see, more states, new states. Like I was on another podcast and we were discussing um Illinois and how the governor was like, oh, I really think, we should consider delivery for cannabis. And I'm like, finally, it's like what took so long. So it just, I guess, keeping, tabs on the rumblings of delivery and, some of these new states where adult use is finally, um, happening. And yeah, I think eyes set on New York for sure, just to see how that continues to evolve.
Yeah. What states are really digging their heels in terms of like anti-delivery, like or not, or I should say, not moving on it or even talking about it right now?
I am so bad at actually keeping up with news. Like I'm more of like a head down person and literally just like focus on the business. And so I'm not as like well versed as I should be. That is definitely something I want to work on this year. But like the Illinois thing, was interesting because I didn't know that the governor had said that and they brought that up in the podcast. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing, But like, I mean, there's still leaps and bounds to make. Like the governor can say that, but it might not happen. And they've been an established market for some time now. And it's like delivery's been around. And so it's interesting to see how, yeah, like established, states are, maybe considering it now, even though like delivery's been a thing for a while, or like brand new states are trying to, have it as part of their regs from the beginning, kind of like New York. Because they're like, there's no way, like we definitely need to have delivery. It would make sense to not.
Right.
So yeah, or just like even too like Florida, like like why not? Like such a big state, there it's such a big market, like why not? So it's so interesting. But yeah, but I definitely need to be like.
No, no, I totally get it, and that's a good synopsis. I mean, things are changing and moving so fast in this industry, and like I think, but this year I think there's five. I don't even want to say the number, but there's a handful of states that are even considering legalization in their next voting session. So it's constantly changing, constantly evolving,
Yeah.
and what have we missed anything? Is there anything that you want to cover before we wrap up, or what you want to leave the audience with?
Hmm. Um. Let's see. I am in the middle of fundraising actually. I'm crowdfunding on a platform called Republic. We have a little bit less than like 3 weeks left. But yeah, we're crowdfunding, so it's available for anyone if they want to be a part of this journey and be a part of building this company with us. And if not on the investing side of things, if you're just curious to check out our page, like you're more than welcome to. It's republic.com/drop-delivery. And yeah, even just like any support is totally appreciated, whether it's like a like, or following us on LinkedIn, or sharing our crowdfunding page if you think someone that might be interested in anything goes like totally a long way for us. And yeah, and if anybody like would like to connect with me, my email is vanessa@dropdelivery.com. I'm always like available to chat about anything. And yeah, if there's any even too like license holders or entrepreneurs that are even getting into the delivery space, if you mention the podcast and stuff, we could definitely offer a discount on a subscription with the platform.
Awesome. And throw that crowdfunder website out one more time so they can hear it.
Yeah, republic.com is where you can find our crowdfunding page.
There you go. Vanessa, it's been fun. Really appreciate you coming on today and talking about all the exciting things that Drop Delivery is working on and focused on in the new year. And I'd love to have you back on in the near future and talk about how things are going.
Yeah, I would love to. Thanks for having me, Kevin. It's been a blast.
Awesome. Yes. And thank you all for listening. Bye.